Has the league figured out three-point shooting? How good are the Celtics? Should the Jazz tank in the wake of the Gobert injury? The only question left is, say it with me, you win. Hey sports fans, Coach Nick here, and welcome to the B-Ball Breakdown Podcast / live show as we do on Sunday nights. And I'm joined as always by Dave DuFour at Dave DuFour NBA. Dave, it's Sunday. We're together. What's happening?
Nothing at all. I just got home from spent the weekend camping, so I'm going to need you to catch me up on some stuff that I was not able to catch up on this afternoon.
All righty. Well, as always, we also encourage you to ask questions in the Periscope or on Twitter, and we'll get to them throughout the broadcast as we go through it. But, there are some storylines that we can talk about early in the season. But guess what? We're like 12 games into the season. This is not like so early anymore, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. What did we say a few minutes ago? We're about 14% of the way through the season.
Yeah.
And it's almost past the point where we can say it's early, but I mean, it is still early. It's always early. But things are starting to kind of some of these guys that are having hot starts, this might just be what their year is going to be.
Right. Well, here, when you say hot starts, I think you're referring to, like, there's some players out there that are shooting a ridiculous percentage from three on high volume. And that's what's kind of weird. I was going to do a video on it, and I wasn't sure, but I think it's going to demand doing something because it's now, we can't ignore it. Now that you're 10, 11, 12 games in and you're taking 5.5 threes a game, some of these guys, you got to take them seriously, I think, at this point.
Certainly. I mean, especially the guys like Tobias Harris. Right? Like, what were we just saying? He's shooting like 50%. Now, certainly he's not going to do that for the season, 50% from three. But he may be looking at a career high this year. He's definitely shooting the ball better. He's looking more confident. And that's half the battle. Yeah,
and it's a big reason why the Pistons are doing surprisingly so well. I mean, I know we all want to point to Reggie Jackson being healthy again, and that's certainly something, and that gives them a weapon in the starting lineup. But it's Tobias Harris's numbers that are, good, and it's the shooting that's giving him spacing. So, it is very surprising to me that we're seeing this. And again, it's like it's not. I mean, every day that goes by becomes less small sample size theater, and we really got to look at this. Whereas, let's just say they start to come back down to earth and they start shooting instead of 50%, it's like 40%. Well, that's still elite, and it's still enough to drive their defender the extra 2 steps toward them on the weak side. Because it's funny. I was talking to some guys, some coaches in the NBA about what it means to be a good shooter on the weak side as far as spacing. Like, is it really even a thing? And it's basically, a step and a half, but to NBA players, a step and a half is pretty significant, which is kind of crazy, I think, to most laymen.
I teach this a lot when I'm coaching offense, and it's the difference between setting up on the line and setting up one big step back from the line. That one big step is the difference between an open shot and a contested shot. It's the difference between your defender helping from the weak side and leaving you wide open, or you're close enough that you're not going to be open. He's going to be able to recover. And so, that little tiny bit of space is so important, especially in the NBA.
Oh, yeah. It really is. It's kind of amazing when you think about it. It's funny. I just did a quick search to see who was shooting 45% or more on 4 attempts a game or more this year. And basketball ref gave me didn't give me anything. I will try again in a second. But anyway, let's talk a little bit about this and other surprising starts, because I know we briefly mentioned the Pistons, but certainly we have a couple other teams, not that surprising, but they're off to really good starts in Houston and Boston. What do you make of Boston's win today without Kyrie Irving?
I thought they looked pretty good, and Toronto's no slouch. So they did a good job beating another top-tier Eastern Conference team. I thought they looked pretty good. Obviously, having Horford back really helped them a lot. That guy is sort of the engine of that team. He's very much the Draymond Green of that team. He does so much for them defensively and offensively that if he misses any kind of significant time, that's trouble for them, even more so than Kyrie. They were able to make up for Kyrie's production with just more Marcus Smart, more Terry Rozier, and they're just so deep. It is insane. They are just a super deep team.
Absolutely. And so, you have a thing where Kyrie goes down. And, people wanted to argue that maybe Baines, let's just pretend Baines had another uniform on. It's a different team. And if he had made that kind of contact, it would have been a dirty play. And, again, it didn't feel that way. I feel like it was a random, thing where I think, Kyrie broke his nose. I think is that what ended up what they said happened to him?
Yeah, he's got a broken nose. He's going to come back with a mask.
Yeah, that's brutal. I mean, I broke my nose several times playing in high school.
Oh, no. He's a facial fracture. Sorry.
Oh, that's probably even worse. So that guy, it's funny that some of the injuries he's had, they're just a random craziness. And by the way, yeah, you are frozen apparently on our live feed here, but maybe it's because you're thinking so hard that it's like that's the image we need to see in our brains as we're watching. But the audio seems like it's coming in fine.
Yeah, I don't know why it keeps freezing. We're just gonna blame it on Skype.
Yeah, no, we have to blame it on Wirecast, actually, this one, I think. Because Skype, it looks fine. So, anyway, if I have a chance, maybe I'll try and fix that. But while you're talking, if you give me a long soliloquy at some point, I will I will try and fix it. But, Al Horford came back. Did you notice the starting lineup, though? I thought it was interesting. They had Baines and Horford together, and they put Jaylen Brown basically as a shooting guard and Tatum as, a small forward. Big lineup, and Marcus Smart. That's an interesting take by Brad Stevens.
Yeah, well, you and I talk about this all the time. If you've got that positional flexibility and you can do stuff like that, then you definitely should throw it out, especially in the regular season. See what you have. The odds are they won't run into the San Antonio Spurs in the playoffs, but if they do, they have a lineup now that they can throw out there against Gasol and Aldridge. And that's important. It's important to know what you've got. So, I think that trying everything out is worthwhile.
Oh yeah.
And then we're getting a lot of Tatum talk in the chat, and I think it's worth mentioning how good he's been, how poised he's looked since that first half of his first game. He has not looked like a rookie since the first half of his first game. He's so long, he's so under control. He's just such a threat offensively, and then his defense has been fantastic. So I don't think he's getting enough Rookie of the Year buzz.
It's funny because it just so happened I did a video on Ben Simmons having maybe one of the greatest rookie years of all time. And, I get it because Michael had 28 a game and then 6 rebounds and 5 assists or something like that. Whereas, I did the search I did was 17, 7, and 7. And there's only him and Oscar, Magic, and Ben Simmons are the only ones that do that. But you look at Tatum's numbers, he's averaging 13.7 points a game, 5.7 rebounds, 1.8 assists. He's shooting 50% from 3 on 3 attempts per game. He shot well. Do we think that he was going to be an elite shooter from 3, even though it's slightly low volume this early?
No, I'm actually pretty surprised. Most rookies do struggle shooting threes when they come in. I mean, it's a longer shot. It's you're dealing with longer athletes and game speed and whatnot. But he's been looking really good, man. I've really been impressed, surprised, even. Yeah. And I thought he would be okay. I just didn't think he would be like this. I mean,
right. I thought he'd be okay too. That maybe the Duke thing. I don't know, but certainly I don't want to make anybody cry. So I think luckily we talked about Tatum enough, or maybe hopefully that was enough for somebody who didn't want to cry in the chat and on Periscope. So, and just to get back to the Magic. Okay, I know Magic ended up being the MVP of the Finals and winning Game 6 as the starting center. But it doesn't necessarily count for the I was considering regular season, right? Like who had the best regular season, and of course, Wes Unseld was rookie of the year, or was an MVP as a rookie. Maybe Kareem was too, or something like that. I'm forgetting who the other player was. But there's a lot of context for all these players. Michael played 3 years in college. And he was a 21-year-old rookie, but he played 3 years for Dean Smith. Oscar played 4 years in college.
Right.
David Robinson's another big one, but that dude was in the Air Force. He was a 24-year-old rookie. So a lot of context all around. Oh, and then by the way, Ben Simmons is he a rookie because he was there last year? He just didn't play. It's a very confusing conversation. I had no idea, but certainly a lot of people enjoy the video, and that was nice. If you haven't, you go over there and check it out. Which, by the way, reminds me really quickly, we also should check out I have a new podcast, Dave. Did you know that?
I did, but I have not subscribed. Let me subscribe right now.
All right, you go on your phone and subscribe, as I have to quickly describe what it is. But basically, it's a politics and culture podcast. And so I'm bringing on some journalists and then writers in Hollywood who I know are going to come on the show and discuss their craft, and we'll dabble in maybe a little bit more like some politics stuff, but also some a lot of like what they're doing as for like comedy and that kind of stuff. It ended up being really great. I have one with Ben Wexler, who is a writer, wrote on Arrested Development. He wrote on Community. He was one of the creators of The Comedians with Billy Crystal and Josh Gad, which really deserved a lot more eyeballs than it got. And it's a really funny. I was actually listening to it in the car with my wife on the way home today, and we were laughing. Like, it was actually funny, and which is really kind of meta to do that. But definitely check it out. So the podcast is called "Can You Hear Me Shaking My Head?" which might be a phrase you guys all recognize from over here, but it's definitely not a B-Ball Breakdown podcast. Check it out. Let me know what you guys think. I think it's a really great podcast. It's going to be great tomorrow, where I'm releasing one with Jared Yates Sexton, who is a writer he wrote for New York Times, and he's written for Politico, and he followed Trump on the campaign. Really great stuff. So definitely check that out tomorrow when it drops.
All right, I'm subscribing. Although people can't see me in the chat, I am subscribing right now. There we go. Right. Done. I'm going to check that out.
Well, and then while we're here, let's answer a question from somebody. Let's see what we have here if we go through really quickly on Periscope. If there's a good question, you guys throw them out there, because we want to make you guys part of the show. And today we're not doing our other where you can join with a video, but we'll do that soon. But we're going to do this with just the written, either on Periscope or Twitter. Shamgod asks, what concerns you most about the Celtics? Great question. Dave, what do you think?
Right now, that they don't need Gordon Hayward. Maybe they wasted their money. I don't know. I mean, honestly, they've looked really, really good. The defense has been good. The offense has been good. Let's just go with health. So far, obviously the Hayward injury was devastating. Kyrie injury, Horford with the concussion. Remember last year he missed 9 games after a concussion and the post-concussion syndrome issue. Yeah. Marcus Smart has tweaked his ankle again. Now, he didn't do it today, but this was a few games ago, and he's had a history of ankle injuries. And so, just like most teams, I think their success is going to be predicated on whether or not they can stay healthy, because they obviously have the horses. Can they keep them on the court? And this is where their depth really comes into play. I think that they're just so deep. I don't know, man. They can just roll out all of these random lineups, and they just seem to work. And at a certain point, I might start saying that Brad Stevens is a really, really good coach.
Sure. We can say that. I mean, listen, they keep plugging guys in. Like Daniel Tice is nice.
I love him. He's got some old man ball fake moves that he pulls out anytime he gets a chance, and I'm a sucker for that, man. Yeah. So yeah, it's great. And Terry Rozier, I think Rozier would start for like 10 other teams.
Oh, well, let's not go crazy, but he's giving us a lot of consistent signs that he is getting there, right? Like, there's still a clunker or two every so often, but man, he's one of those classic, like, getting more confidence, getting more time, increasing his production. Even like Semi Ojeleye, were you high on him? I can't remember.
Yeah, I love Shemi.
Yeah, again, not great, but like glimpses of a guy who seems like he belongs and believes. And then, you throw in Tyson there, who's like a really solid big man who's got good hands and he can finish a little bit on the rim and block a shot or two. They have a lot of options here, and just like we talked about the starting lineup, they could go big if they wanted to for no other reason than they just let's see what happens.
Right.
And they could force the other team to have to adjust to them versus the other way. Again, do they have that cold-blooded killer? Yes, I guess Kyrie Irving is that guy too. So they even have that guy who's also playing terrific defense.
Yeah, they've got everything that you want from a championship team. This is gonna be really interesting in the East this year. It's gonna be really, really interesting. Yeah. Someone in the chat pointed out that Houston and Golden State would blow them out. I agree. I actually think Houston and Golden State are so far ahead of everyone else because of their offense. And their, Golden State's defense we all know about. Houston's defense is good enough. And so I think that, just because of the value of offense, you and I have talked quite a bit about this, and we were going to try to figure this out. And I think just off the top of our head, we felt like it was like a 70-30 split, maybe leaning towards 75-25 as far as value, offense to defense. If you've got a top flight offense, you can have a lower defense, and you can do more. I mean, you look at a guy like Harden, his offense is so incredible that who cares that his defense is so bad? I mean, I care and you care, and of course we care in the abstract, but he's still a positive player. I mean, so far this season, he's leading the league in scoring, leading in assists. He's also assisted on I think he leads the league in assists for threes, or assists at least for threes
as usual.
And he is obviously most points. He's responsible for the most points in the league, with points, assists, and hockey assists or whatever. I mean, the guy's just incredible. And so it's like, okay, yes, maybe he's not going to try for 5 possessions in a row on defense.
Right.
Have I told you? Did I tell you that I came up with a way to solve the Harden defense thing?
No. What was your solution?
He should guard fours.
Because he's stout.
Yep. Permanently have him guard fours.
Okay.
The other night, again, in the Cleveland game, I watched Ariza getting tossed around by LeBron, and I said, maybe throw Harden on him. Now, not for the whole game, but for possessions here and there. Harden's big enough that I think, and he's super long, and this is something people don't realize, I think that he could slow LeBron down just a little bit. At least throw a different look at him.
Right. Right. And by the way, he might get enough of a respect from the referees where they're not going to just call an instant foul on him like they might call on Ariza or somebody else, which is a thing in the NBA without question. So, I mean, you don't want to tire him out or get him into foul trouble for that. But, you benefit when you can throw different looks at LeBron and try and wear him down that way. The Cavaliers have been a little bit better, I suppose, recently. But by the way, you mentioned that like the Warriors are head and shoulders above everybody else, and I had done a video. I can't remember who it was, but it was like a 2-on-1 fast break. Clay and Curry back, and he had to make he made one decision, the other one was wide open 3 splash, and it's like you're just going to soil your undies if you're that one guy back, right? That feels like. Have you ever soiled your undies before?
No. Because
if you had, then you could change, and that would give you a chance to actually wear a pair of MeUndies. You know what I'm saying?
I knew this was a segue.
Yeah, I'm telling you. Oh, and now you disappeared. I hear you. This is good. I don't see your video, but I hear you. And so MeUndies is a really important thing because, again, when you're on that 2-on-1 and you're that one back, you got to have clean underwear. And every year, millions of people receive like the least liked gift of all time as we're moving into the holiday season. It's underwear. But I got to tell you, that's going to change if you start buying underwear from MeUndies for your loved ones or friends or even distant relatives. Have you ever felt a pair of MeUndies in your hand?
I have. They're fantastic. That micromodal fabric that they use is just incredible and sustainable.
3 times softer than cotton, my man. I'm telling you. And they have a diamond-shaped pouch that keeps the family jewels in place. It's like a goddamn holiday miracle. I'm telling you right now. So it's the perfect gift for anyone if you want them to love you or you love them, or maybe you want them to you want to love them, or you hope that they will love you at some point. Get them MeUndies. And you know what? If you go to MeUndies.com/CoachNick, you can get 20% off the softest underwear and socks you will ever wear with free shipping, 100% satisfaction guarantee.
What was that code again?
It was MeUndies.com/CoachNick. It's not even a code. It's a URL, man. So head over there. Use that link. You can save 20% off. And I'm telling you, it's the best thing I've come across for all the different things we've talked about on the show, for different products. MeUndies, get out there and try it, and you won't soil yourself next time you're on a 2-on-1 fast break against the top 2 players in your league.
Yeah, that's not happening. So let's take some more questions from the chat. We've got people asking us to talk about Lonzo. I made this mistake on Twitter, man. You make one joke on Twitter and then people are talking about stabbing you, and it's just it goes south in a hurry. I think right now Lonzo's not good, and that's okay. It's fine. He doesn't have to be good right now. He's a rookie. How many rookies are good? Not many.
Yeah, that is true. Rookies aren't always good. I'll agree with that. I keep seeing enough signs. Again, even like Rozier, for instance, right? Who didn't look that great last year, but now developed into this year. I'm seeing enough that leads me to believe that he will be good. Sooner than later.
I'm sure he'll be fine. But right now, he's just been bad, and there's not really much to talk about.
Yeah, and the Lakers aren't doing that great. They had a surprising record to begin with, and then they kind of stumbled a bit. Right, I got to check the record real quick, but right, they lost a few games. So then they're 5-8. I think they were 5-5, and now they've lost 3 in a row. So it's Lonzo isn't necessarily the issue if you want to look at why the Lakers are stumbling to some degree. There's definitely a lack of attention to detail. I feel like their offense isn't being run very well and with good execution. But I'm telling you right now, I've seen glimpses of Lonzo being a good defender. Seriously. And I've seen plenty of evidence of him just getting blown by and not really in a good position. But I've seen it. He's long and he's got lateral quickness, and we've seen it. Little bits and pieces here. Certainly the passing is there. He's getting enough assists. It's just, God, is he struggling to even just put the ball in the basket from anywhere.
Yeah, and like you said, it's attention to detail. It's poor coaching. They're not using him properly. If you go back and you watch the tape from UCLA, they used him as a weak side guy. He wasn't this, bring the ball up, pound it at the top of the key, and come off a pick and roll. That's just not how he facilitated the offense. He was a weak side guy, and he would catch and shoot from the weak side, or he would make the secondary pass or something like that. So this comes down to coaching, and I've questioned what Walton's been doing, not only on the court but also his coaching staff is not exactly. We've talked about this. It's not a who's who or a murderer's row of coaches that you would want around a young coach and an experienced coach. Who's the X's and O's guy? I don't know who on that staff is doing the X's and O's.
Right.
Seems like he's got a lot of relationship guys, which, if you remember when he was with Golden State, he was the relationship guy. So I just think they've got some questions they're going to have to answer in the offseason. I think the coaching staff is where I would start. And this is not a fire Luke Walton rant. I think Luke is going to probably wind up being a decent coach. But you're going to have a ceiling on how good you can be as a coach if you aren't the X and O's guy, or you don't have one on your staff. That guy needs to be around. You need to have someone that knows how to put your players in the best position to succeed.
I agree. And it's weird because I think there's a perception across the NBA fandom that anybody who's an assistant coach or a head coach in the NBA is probably the best coach in the world. That's why they're there. They are the best of the best. They have the most knowledge of everybody. And unfortunately, it's not always the case. And I would think that Luke would have a lot of experience with the Warriors to bring with him. But again, I have to imagine he's over his head or underwater with everything he has to kind of try and do and keep together with, not the biggest incentive to win this year anyway, right? So that's sort of the other issue, although it doesn't excuse having, let's hold them accountable now.
Well, they have no incentive to tank, though.
What's that?
They have no incentive to tank.
They have no incentive to tank, but they know, the Warriors, the Rockets, the Rockets. It's they're where were they? Even in the best case scenario, they're maybe 8th, right?
Yeah, they're not gonna. They weren't gonna make the playoffs.
But
they were never gonna make the playoffs.
They have no incentive because why?
They have their pick is owed.
They owe their pick. That's right.
Yeah.
To who?
It's Philly or Boston.
Okay. Is that okay? Right.
That was the Tatum trade.
Right. So, I guess you're opposite. They're incentivized to actually win, to make that pick worse, to not help anybody else. But still, what do you think they're going to finish this year?
I don't know. I think they're going to win 30 games, something like that.
Yeah.
If I had to guess. Their record. What's funny is their record isn't that bad. If you were living in a bubble, and you didn't realize, if you were just listening to people talk, especially Lakers fans talk, and you didn't watch the games, you didn't pay attention to the standings, you would think, wow, maybe the Lakers hadn't won a game. They're 5-8.
Yeah. Well,
Right?
if they were to win 39% of 82 games, a little quick math here. It's 32 wins. So it's pretty much where they'd be, like you predicted anyway. And that seems reasonable, I think. And I think probably everyone thought they were going to win between 30 and 35 anyway, right?
Yeah.
So that's right there. So yeah, that seems reasonable. I mean, I don't see them going on a run where they're going to win 6 or 7 or 8 in a row. They'll probably win their 2, 3 in a row, then lose a 2 or 3 or 4. You know what I mean? Back and forth. But even still, the future is bright in LA with those guys, and they just need a couple more pieces and get rid of a couple. Even though Randall has been better, actually, believe it or not, I just don't think he fits in with what they want to do. I think with enough of a sample size, you just see that he is more intent on not really passing the ball, just sort of being, getting his own stuff. And he might just be doing it because he knows they want to trade him and he's trying to showcase everything too. But there's something about the way he plays doesn't really fit into the ball movement style that they want. I forgot to talk about Ball for a second. The only criticism I have for Ball is that he gives the ball up too early. Right? It's
interesting.
Weird. And I like the fact that you pass the ball up ahead, for a scoring opportunity or for a quick hitter on the wing. But he'll just give it up to a guy who's 10 feet, 12 feet away from him as another guard and let him bring it up. And those are the moments when he should have an opportunity to create something quickly.
Oh, okay. I see. So he goes into the stand and watch mode.
Yeah, well, or no, he might just cut away, but it's there are moments in that secondary break where he could be pushing it up and create something amazing. And instead, he just kind of gives the ball up so early in the backcourt. It's weird. So you almost got to encourage him to be more aggressive, more selfish in a way to hold on the ball longer. I think that would help them, and he'll learn that eventually. I hope if Luke and his staff can see that.
Yeah, I mean, but they have to see it. That's the problem.
That is true. Not everybody can see. Not everyone has glasses like this with missing one.
That's right.
What's this? What are the things called in your glasses? The things that go over your ear?
The arm? I don't know. I don't know what that's called. I don't know.
Anyone know out there what it's called? You can see this if you're watching this. You can see it. And people have asked me about this. They only have one.
Yeah, it's ophthalmology breakdown.
Yes, absolutely.
Here on the pod. It's a new segment we're working out.
Yeah. Do we have any questions that we see right now from? We have actually a bunch of questions.
Yeah.
You see one you want to grab?
How long until Kevin Love ends up in Utah? That's from Sham. I don't see that I don't think that's a thing that's going to happen. But what we can talk about is Rudy Gobert and the injury. He's going to be out 4 to 6 weeks. Utah was always going to have to scratch and claw to make the playoffs. This is probably, I would imagine, going to be the nail in the coffin for their playoff hopes. If you were Utah, would you consider some sort of tank?
They have their pick, right? Obviously.
Yes.
Would I consider a tank? Probably. They lost Gordon Hayward in free agency, and so they were kind of rudderless a little bit anyway. And George Hill didn't come back. So Ricky Rubio is like their main offensive weapon these days. So yeah, it's kind of concerning where they are. So yeah, they would probably benefit for sure from tanking and trying to get a really high draft pick and a good draft that should yield them something good. And I had tweeted it out when I saw that injury. Now, a couple different things. First of all, I don't think that Witters did it on purpose. I think he was diving for a ball. Maybe he's a little bit reckless. Maybe it's a foul, but that was about it. But I remember he walked off, and the Jazz fans wanted to be really positive and think, oh, he's just sort of, it was okay. And I said that if the fact that people think that he's not out for an extended period of time is miraculous, if that was the case. And sure enough, what it comes down is, was it 4 to 6 weeks?
4 to 6 weeks is what they're saying. With the knee bruise like that, again, anytime a guy over 6'6" has something like that happen, I err on the side of caution. I would say keep him out for at least 8 weeks. Go longer.
It was gruesome.
Yeah, and he's lucky that nothing was torn. But this was very much like the KD injury last year when Zaza rolled up his leg. Right. So I mean, first of all, really glad that nothing was actually injured. That's fantastic. But if you're Utah, you have to start thinking about the big picture and the lottery and whatnot. And I think that there is some value to considering a tank. They won't do it. I don't think they'll do it. But maybe.
Yeah. Here's a question we have from Danny B96 who asks, "Oh, B96, that was the name of the radio station when I was growing up. It's probably still there in Chicago. They played all the hits." Anyway, what is going on with the Kings? I thought they would be better, not great, but better, and me too. And I watched a few minutes of the Kings in the last couple of days, and they got hammered the last game, I think. I don't know. They don't look organized to me. Have you had a chance to watch a lot of Kings?
I've watched a little bit, not enough that I can tell you exactly what's going on, but I've got some from the little bit I've watched. Here's my assumption. I would assume you've got a lot of young guys and they're playing a fair amount, but then they're also playing some old guys.
Right.
And there's your problem. De'Aaron Fox has looked amazing. Even though he hasn't necessarily performed well statistically, he's looked like he belongs.
Yeah.
Dude gets up and down the court really fast. They've got some guys that are fun to watch. It's just, they're young. They're going to take their lumps.
Yeah. Offensively, they're just terrible, by the way. I mean, they're ranked, and offensive rating is 29th. And when you look at just the numbers, it's like their leading scorer right now is Zach Randolph at 12.8. I mean, if that continues, it's going to have to be the lowest scoring leader of a team, right, in the NBA. Maybe all time. I can't think of another. Right? I can't imagine. Even the bad teams in the last 30 years have had a score that's get at least 16, 17 a game as the leading scorer.
Yeah, it would be pitiful if that is what happens. And George Hill is basically not even there.
Right.
That's been an interesting development, and for a guy who you and I talked about potentially getting a max at the beginning of last season. That's problematic. So far, averaging 7.4 points a game.
I'll also tell you another reason why, and this is just glancing at it, but the top 10 players on the team are all playing at least 18 minutes. No one's playing more than 26.8, like De'Aaron Fox. And so I think what you're getting here is they're not playing the best lineups long enough to really have an impact. So no one's getting a lot of minutes, which is why the points per game is down for individually. And so I would expect this is not a team that's deep like that can go 10 deep with that many minutes spread across. You know what I mean? The Warriors could do that and win a lot of their games, but not the Kings.
Right. I mean, George Hill is playing 25 minutes a game, he's taking 7 shots. The other thing about not playing guys more minutes, especially some of these veterans and guys, takes them a while to kind of get into a groove. There's a reason that 32 to 36 minutes is kind of the sweet spot. And I wonder if there's some of that as well. And maybe just, a little bit of random lineups. Again, I haven't watched enough of the Kings to really know. I'm just taking stabs at it. I've only watched, like a game and a half of the Kings.
Okay, fair enough. It's funny because this also came up. So Dallas is really terrible. And they're tanking, right?
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
And they're also just bad. So
yeah, I feel bad. LeBron blew by Dirk the other day, and it was like Dirk moves like I move now.
I want Dirk to retire right now. It's just sad to watch.
Are they going to trade him?
No, they would never do that. Never.
All right.
I don't begrudge a guy for staying in the league as long as he's able to be employed. But God, man, it's so hard to watch. The guy's a Hall of Famer. He's a great player. It's just so hard to watch. He can barely move. The argument for starting him is that he can't go from warm-ups to sitting on the bench because he gets too stiff. That's a terrible reason to start a guy. If that's the problem, he should just hang him up right now.
Right. I agree. And that's also tough because now what do you do about that? Can he do that or not?
Yeah, he can retire today. He can say, I retire.
That would be sad too. And I just, now I just screwed up my. Sorry, I was trying to get your image back, and I now have two images of me on there. Anyhow, it won't float. So anyway, Skype sucks. If anyone wants to know,
the new Skype really is horrible. It's actually what's funny is even though We're recording, and it's obviously still working. It's frozen on my end, so I can't adjust any settings or anything like that. So, yeah, new Skype, not good.
Right.
Old Skype wasn't very good.
Yeah.
Somebody needs to make a competing product. That's what we need. We need a disruptor in the online video chat segment.
Well, we have it. It's called Shindig, and we're gonna go use that from now on because this is atrocious. So, yeah, I mean, Stove Jensen even says even Kobe's last year wasn't as bad as Dirk, and that's probably true. And because he's not moving. Like, can't they just get Dirk into like a Pilates class or something like that? Like he just needs to. His back is locked up. He just looks so stiff. He cannot move, and he's not. Is he 40?
Yeah, he's 40, and he's also 7 feet tall.
Right.
How many old 7-footers do you know that move well?
Right. And another good point by R. Lewis was like, if they are tanking, then it makes sense to start him and play him a lot of minutes because that's what's going to keep them there. That's
a fantastic point that I hadn't considered.
Right. But it is sad because it's like you never want to see a guy get to where he is now. But it's not like it's surprising. It's been leading up to this every year. He's been getting closer.
Let me ask you a question, Nick.
Yeah.
Would you be able to beat Dirk 1-on-1 right now?
No, not even close. I mean, first of all, he's a foot taller than I am, so that's one thing. And listen, I can't run barely. Although I could probably get into a stance and move laterally okay. But hey, I'm in Pilates 3 times a week just so I can like walk without it hurting. So
yeah, I mean, you're not defending his shot. If it's make it, take it. You would not be able to miss.
I might get a little separation, and I could shoot, but who knows? But you're right. A normal person who's like my age, and we're almost the same age anyway. Actually, it's not true. I guess I'm 5 years older than him. But a 45-year-old that plays regularly, like in a decently competitive game, could give Dirk a run for his money in a one-on-one game.
And this is my point.
Yeah.
Right. Like again, Dirk is not an NBA player anymore.
Yeah. He's
just not. And I mean. No one wants to say that because we all love Dirk, but it's just the truth. So, moving on. Well, any other questions we can grab real quick? I don't see any.
Because the other thing we can that's all right. It's almost late in the show. We can do another. We can talk about Harry's on the next show. Although don't forget to go to harrys.com/Coach Nick because it's a great shave. I got some new razors in the mail yesterday, and I'm really excited to use them. But we'll go through that in our next show. But I don't know. I mean, what else do we want to talk about? We kind of covered everything earlier that we wanted to talk about as far as before the show started. So let's see here. Will Lonzo get more confident? Jay Cagle asks. Yes.
I hope. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean that's an odd question, but I assume so.
I mean, is he? I think the question then becomes: is he mentally tough, or has he been coddled his whole life, and not to, he doesn't know what adversity is or not?
I thought about this the other day. Think about this timeline for him. Okay, so he starts at UCLA, becomes a big deal at UCLA while he's there, potential #1 pick or whatever all year. UCLA makes it to the Final Four. His mom has a stroke, a serious stroke. Like, she's still recovering.
Really?
Yeah, the night before the game.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, his mom had a stroke. And LeVar, is taking care of his wife. There's all this stuff happening. And then, so you've got the championship game, and he didn't perform very well. He goes into the draft, gets drafted #2 by his hometown team. Spends all summer, all you hear is Lonzo, Lonzo, Lonzo. It's the Lonzo show. LeVar is still doing his LeVar thing, but it's turned up to 11 because now he's on all these shows, dragging Lonzo with him because Lonzo no longer has to worry about the NCAA. Lonzo goes to Summer League. Lonzo has a really great Summer League. He's really good. But he's changing shoes every single game. Right. He doesn't wear the big baller brand shoes, by the way. There's another theory I've got. And so you've got all of this pressure. And again, starting with the fact that his mom had a stroke. That to me, that was kind of a turning point for him, I feel. And he's so stoic about everything. You and I have even talked about that quite a bit. when you talk to him post game, he says all the right things. He's obviously he thinks about his teammates and all this stuff. He's very in tune with what he wants to say, the message, right? But you can watch him on the court right now when he's struggling, and it's different body language, completely different body language.
Yeah,
and I wonder if he's just mentally exhausted, man. It's been a long 8 months for him.
Sure, it's definitely some bad body language theater, or just sort of like disconnected to the game, and so he's got to somehow reconnect with that again, and then once they do that, they'll get on a roll, and it'll be exciting because we've seen enough where the crowd is into it and like everyone is going crazy, and guys are cutting, and he's throwing passes, and he's influencing people when he's on the bench, all sorts of great stuff. So I think it's just a matter of time. It's just time and experience, and he'll get there. There's just too much evidence in my mind of real ability, real star potential there. So I think it's right there. So people want to ask about really quickly about Frank Ntilikina. Thoughts?
I like what I've seen so far. I think it's smart that Hornacek's got him out there and into game scenarios, trying to build for the future. His defense has been fantastic. I like the way he uses, and I talked about this in the lead up to the draft. You and I talked about it. Like how he uses his body when he's, handling the basketball. He uses his length. He uses his butt. Now, is he great at it? No, but he'll get there. I think he's going to be a good player. I think the idea that he's going to be a bust is, again, with all these guys, it's too early.
Fair enough, but I do see a really annoying, frustrating trend where he'll have the ability to turn the corner on a pick and roll and then just not drive. It's a real sickness. I don't know what his problem is.
He loves the pull-up jumper, and and if you look at his tape from Europe, that he did that a lot. He loved the pull-up jumper coming out of the pick and roll.
Oh, I don't even see a pull-up. I would take a pull-up jumper. I just see him just dribbling in place. It doesn't even because it's not even like having to pull up. It's like getting a dribble and a half toward the basket, and then you can kick out and then create for your teammates closeout situations. He's not doing that a lot. It drives me nuts. I'm like, what is going on here? And but like you said, then people will get on Twitter and say, yeah, that's always how he's been. He's never really been aggressive with the handle to the basket. He's got to figure something out because. I don't know what it is. Apparently, he was a shooter, but he really hasn't done very well from behind the 3-point on very small volume. But he's gonna have space to be able to create something. He's gonna have as a guard, you got to be able to go to the basket on the dribble.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
We got here. How about one last question? It's from T. Boucher, 320. Or Boucher, maybe. Thoughts on Embiid's lack of conditioning and explosiveness, and his knee. He thinks his knee doesn't look to be 100%. You want to start?
Huh. Well, it was funny. I wanted to go back I was watching the Sixers Warriors, and I got to tell you, the Sixers were right there with them for most of the game. Even though I need to check the box score, but even though I don't think Embiid did anything at all, right? At least in the first half, I don't think he did very much at all. And I was going to say that's a really great sign for the Sixers that they could be neck and neck with the Warriors without Embiid going off. That said, is it related because his knee isn't working, or is he just having to go against Draymond and then Zaza leaning on him? So I don't know. I didn't see anything out of the ordinary. Have you?
No, I think the conditioning is a real concern. But I'm not shocked. Remember, he spent all summer not really being able to do anything.
Right.
And he didn't really get a training camp at all. And, he played in that one preseason game, and that was basically it. And so I think he's still working his way into shape. Let's see what he's doing around Christmas.
Okay. Yeah, we certainly – let's see what the team is doing around
It's
Christmas.
Something to watch.
Still around 500. Because, his numbers right now, his 20 points a game, 10 rebounds, 3.3 assists, 1.2 steals, one block and a half. His 3-point shooting is down. He should be over 30%. It's down to 23%. So, yeah, there's a little struggle there, and he's only 49% from the field overall, which should be much higher for him anyway.
Yeah, and again, I'd say let's see. This is something to watch, though. This is definitely something to monitor, and let's see how he looks around Christmas.
But again, and I mentioned this on Twitter the other day, Hinkie did a fantastic job, and he, again, everyone, wants to give him credit for what he did. But getting guys like McConnell and Covington and Anderson. These are good pieces to have around these stars. And even like, well, Redick isn't part of his deal, but you know what I mean? Those are good pieces when you have like 2 or 3 really good players. Those are the guys you want around them, and I think that's really going to help them, in the next couple of years.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, well, what really helped me was having you on the show with me tonight. So I can't thank you enough for joining me on this Sunday night post-camping weekend.
Yeah, it was a good trip. Got to take my new puppy camping for the first time. He was amazing.
Oh, how cute. So, well, listen, what kind of puppy is it?
He's a mutt.
Okay, just like all of us.
Yeah, he's a mutt, exactly. He's a cute mutt, but he's a mutt.
All right. Well, go play with your mutt. I will go and get this thing posted for early tomorrow morning, fresh and ready. We're going to check out my new podcast, Can You Hear Me Shaking My Head? It's on iTunes and Stitcher and everywhere else. And awesome show. Thanks, Dave, for coming on. And don't forget, sports fans, at B-Ball Breakdown, not a channel, we're a conversation. You in? Are you in, Dave?
Yes, I am.